I can tell you one thing. Technology is the single most important aspect of every business that has successfully scaled.
It's time for That Real Estate Tech Guy. It's your weekly chance to explore how technology can help your real estate business explode. Each week, you'll hear from real estate investors who have been there and done that, and find out their favorite technology tips. Listen in as Jordan speaks with tech companies and learns about new technologies and new ideas that will help you scale your business. And now, join your host, Jordan Samuel Fleming, CEO of Smartphone, for this week's episode.
Hey everybody, it's Jordan Fleming here with another That Real Estate Tech Guy podcast. I'm delighted that my co-pilot for this episode is Jenna Hoover from Realeflow. Jenna, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you just introduce yourself and Realeflow quickly?
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Jenna Hoover, and I'm a real estate investor by trade. I've been doing that for the last 10 years. I'm from the southwestern Pennsylvania area. So I started out flipping houses. I started getting into rental properties, Airbnb. I've done a lot of really cool things in real estate. Like I had a TV show on HGTV, DIY, a few years ago. But my real passion is being able to pay it forward with the things that I've learned in the industry. And so now I am teamed up with an awesome company called Realeflow. So we are an all-inclusive CRM and data provider for real estate investors. And we also work with different affiliates who are able to white label our product, and we're able to work with them and do as much hands-off for them as possible. So thanks for having me. And I'm super excited to be here with you.
Well, I'm definitely excited to try to sort of dive in, particularly with your background in real estate, as well as the connection with Realeflow. A lot of what we talk about on this podcast is trying to demystify technology for real estate investors, particularly given how important it is if you're scaling a business. Now, in terms of the core kind of functionalities of Realeflow and how it will really helps real estate investors, can you kind of dive into what you see as the core functionality, for everybody listening?
Yeah. So I like to break it down into two different parts. So we have our data. So what we do, it's almost like having your own behind the scenes access to 148 million properties across the nation. So it's really simple. All you have to do is just put in your specific area. So your city, your county, your state, however you want to search. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull up all the different properties in that area. So then what we're able to do from there is really scrub down our list, because a lot of newer investors, they kind of start out, they get their LLC created, they're sitting there and they're like tapping their fingers, like, what the heck do I do now? There's nothing on the MLS they'll be complaining about, or I can't find any deals on social media. So we have to find them. We have to find the deals. We have to find the leads. So what we do is we put all that information in, and then we start scrubbing down our list. And so we can search for different things. We have 17 different lead types, things like absentee owners, free and clear properties, high equity, low equity. So we even have active listings. So we have a lot of different options that we can search for, because I like to call it like our recipe, like scrubbing down and seeing what exactly we're looking for. Because it's great. We have 148 million leads, but we're not going to send a direct mail piece to every single one of them. So we have our different leads. We can search by the type of properties we want to look for, like maybe land, whether it be multifamily, whether it be commercial, whether it just be single family. So whichever their niche is. And then we can further scrub it down. We have different tools where we can hone in, like with our Polygon tool, if we want to look for just a really small specific area. And then we have a lot of different things that we're integrated with. So things like Google Maps. So somebody can be sitting there and they have their list of different properties that came up, but they can literally virtually walk that neighborhood. So since we're integrated with Google Maps, so they can go in, they can kind of virtually walk through, because as an investor, we all know the goal is to do as much analysis as we can from our actual desktop. So they're going to be able to go in there. They can pull comparable sales, so they can pull comps. Everything is all in one place, so they don't have to toggle between this site and that site and calling an agent. And it's the whole goal is it's designed by investors for investors. So if you were to sit there as an investor and say, I want to create something, and let me think of what would be the perfect best case scenario. And that's what we've done. And that's what we continue to do as a company, is we put our heads together and we say, it'd be really cool if we could do this, or if we could integrate that, or if we could build this in. in. And so from there, we have our different leads, and then we can do things like for a very small fee, we can skip trace them. We can get access to their phone numbers, and our direct mail pieces are like the absolute least expensive in the entire industry, like super, super low, because we're sending out over 100,000 pieces of mail a day as a company. So you get bundled into that really, really low price, whether you're sending one letter or 1,000. So it's a really inexpensive way as a new investor, even a seasoned investor, to get your direct mail out. And then from there, we have different things, like we have courses to teach you about how to advertise on Facebook, because what we found is that if we have our list, we have about 70 to 80% of those people that we have on our list, we can figure out have Facebook. So what we can do is we can target them with skip tracing by getting their phone number. We can send them a direct mail piece. And now what we can do is we can target them on Facebook, because we can export that list, upload it into Facebook, create like a really cheap, $10 ad on Facebook, and then market it to all those specific people that we just targeted 2 other different ways. So that's kind of our data side. So it's a really, really cool piece. And then we have our CRM side, or kind of like our business management tools, or I kind of like to call it like the command center. It's like the heart of the business, the heart of the actual, software when it comes to all the different tools. So if you can, kind of picture and imagine you're a brand new investor and you're like, oh my gosh, I just got into this. I don't have a website. I don't know how to target people. I don't know how to analyze a property. How do I know if it's a deal? What will it cost to fix it? You're like freaked out by all these different things. And that's what it solves. So you get to have your website created. You have the ability to have a repair estimator where you can go in and say, click, 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 yes, 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 or no. And then we know exactly how much it's going to cost to fix that property. And if I'm chatting too much, you just like pull me off the stage with your like little hook, because I can go on forever,
If I start going like this, start with this is fascinating. And what, I want to pick up on a few things there, because obviously, throughout this podcast, I speak to a lot of different systems, technology providers. I speak to a lot of investors as well. And one thing that you said there, which I want to pick up on is this notion of education as well, because I think a lot of, particularly the journey that any investor goes through from starting out to being maybe a more scaled operation, is not only a journey of success around sales and all that, but it's usually a journey on education and learning things. So I'm fascinated that not only do you have the sort of the data side and then the CRM side, which we'll dive into, but you also have this education piece as well. Is that available for everybody inside the system?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different training modules. There's training on like the foreclosure system, private lending. There's all these different modules. And like I said, it's called a Facebook masterclass we have. So it will teach them exactly, because somebody will say like, first off, I'm not savvy on computers. And if somebody's like, I'm not savvy on computers, plus I don't even know your software, they're like, double
a lot of friction right there, right?
Yeah.
Right, immediately.
But it's going to baby them, and it's going to, it's not like, when I don't want to be rude when I say baby, it's going to handhold them. So it's going to say, here's what we do, step 1, step 2. And then we have a fantastic knowledge base with all these different walkthrough video tutorials that's going to tell somebody exactly what they're going to need to do. So, it's going to tell them, here's how we export our leads. Here's what we do and how to create this in Facebook. And so, and I'm a product of the product. Like, I started out as an investor in my area. I started out as a user of the product, and I did my own thing, and then became so infatuated with the product that I said, I want to be part of it. And so I was kind of a guinea pig for a lot of the different components that we have integrated into the software. And so whenever I first started doing the Facebook marketing, it was so intense that I had to get an additional virtual assistant to be able to help me. I couldn't call them all. And I thought, this is terrible, because they're doing all this marketing for me, and now I can't even keep up with the leads. So I had to bring on an additional person, because I didn't want anything to fall through the cracks. So, I'm a definite product of the product, but if somebody's brand new, we have things integrated like a seller script. So if they're thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this marketing and my phone rings, what the heck do I say? What do I do? It's literally going to have an exact walkthrough of the different questions that they're going to ask. And there's going to be different prompts. So if I hit a no or a yes, then it's going to prompt me on what to ask next and what to do next. And it's also integrated into your Google Calendar. So if you have a team in place and you want to have team congruency and be consistent, we can have it to where you click on a button that you're going to be able to set an appointment, and then boom, it's going to show up in your entire team's calendar. You could tag each of your teammates. You can set assignments and different tasks for each other. So the whole goal is to be as efficient as possible. And some people will say like, okay, well, I'm already a seasoned investor. Is this going to work for me? Well, heck yeah. Like even if you have a stack of business cards and you're super disorganized and you have Excel spreadsheets everywhere and Post-it notes and you're a hot mess, start on day one. Today can be day one, and put everything into the system. And then you can eventually start going back or hire an assistant or somebody to eventually put all those things into your system from the past. But then moving forward, you're super efficient and, continuing to go forward. But I mean, we have cool things like we're integrated with Home Depot. So investors can do all their material lists. They can see before and after pictures of other projects that other people have done and say, oh, I like that kitchen. And I am able to say, I want all that material, and I can continue there. So with no real estate experience, no construction experience, no background in it, somebody's going to be able to go in there and feel super, super confident to be able to know, okay, my website's in order and it's SEO optimized, it's WordPress, and it's like literally going to walk you through like 5 or 6 different steps. Plus we have a fantastic support team. So you can call, you can email, there's going to be live chat right there on the screen. So if you're sitting here and you're like, oh my gosh, I started this website, I don't know what I did, help me somebody, there's going to be somebody that's going to be there to fix it for you and work with you.
Panic button. Jesus,
yeah.
Someone help me with something, please. That's really that. Let me ask a few questions then, because you mentioned the data and you mentioned the education, and again, that kind of, to me, that goes to the journey that people take, particularly if they're relatively new to investing and they got to figure a lot of things out, and it can be quite intimidating to, if you've never done a cold call, or you never answered, as you say, if you've never answered someone calling back and you don't know how to do that. But the flip side of that, is how I may be able to start to organize myself better, and how I may be able to start to make sure that, particularly if I'm new, I'm getting some leads now, or I'm buying some data, getting some data, and I'm doing some marketing. What's the journey like inside the actual business management tool side of things? Does it handle everything from A to Z? Does it go from acquisitions to closing? If you're doing wholesaling or if you're doing flipping, does it manage that construction lifestyle and then the marketing? What's the business tool feature like?
Yeah. So, I mean, I could talk about it all day, but we don't have all day. So, I mean, there's things, the main thing is the confidence that it's going to give them, the users. So we have like a deal analyzer. So we can plug in what we're buying it for, what we're fixing it for, and what we're selling it for. And it's going to take in all the different holding costs and pop out a really nice PDF document in a matter of like a minute or two. So we can have the confidence of pulling our comps. So we know what it's going to sell for. We talked about how we can do all of our repair numbers right there. We asked all the right questions with our script. And then we have our deal analyzer where we can basically say, all right, here's going to be the exact amount we're making on our deal. And then all these come in a PDF format. So if I hit a button to generate a document, it puts it together in a really nice PDF format. So I can share this with my team. I can share it with potential lenders. I can share it with my contractors whenever I'm looking at those repair numbers. So it's going to give them that confidence that a deal is an actual deal. And then when you say like, how does it work start to finish? So if I'm getting all of my leads generated from the beginning, I'm putting them into my system. I can do things like tracking all my expenses. So when I start my rehab, I can track all my expenses. I can track all my maintenance if I'm keeping it as a rental property. I mean, like down to who's cutting the grass and things like that we could put on there. We also have a paperless office option. So we have things like all the different real estate contracts. So a purchase and sell agreement, all these different things where it's going to be integrated, where it pulls your name and we have our property file, and it's going to pull all that information, merge it together into an electronic document to where we can send out different offers to people all without any sort of an actual paper type of feel. So we can send out our offers. Then we have like so many different options. Like one of my favorite tools, because you were talking about wholesaling, we have something called power matching. And it is like, in my opinion, like one of the sexiest tools that we have. So what it is, like, let's say I'm a brand new investor. And I have, if we talk about the three legs of wholesaling, so obviously we need good leads coming in. We have to be able to get it under contract. So obviously the art of negotiation and a good buyer's list. So it's like, if you think of a tripod, you kick one leg out, then the whole thing falls over. So if we have leads coming in, we can get it under contract. But if I'm new, I may not have a lot of buyers in my buyer's list. The cool thing is I can click a button. I can see everybody who's in my own personal buyer's list, but also you're teamed up with the entire network of 175,000 different users within the Realeflow network. So if I hit another button, what it's going to do is it's going to show me every single person that's in the entire network that whose buying criteria matches that of that specific property that I just put in. So if I don't have any buyers, I can hit a button and I can see 10, 15, 20, 50 different people that are buying in that specific area. So if I'm in Pennsylvania and I get a lead for Ohio and I'm like, well, I'm not going to flip a house in Ohio. I can hit a button and I can see every investor in that area who's put themselves into our system, scrubbing through thousands and thousands of different users. And I can virtually wholesale this property without ever meeting that person. And it's going to put together a link for me. It's going to send out a message if I tell it to. So it's the things like that that are as hands-off as possible. Plus we have things like email autoresponders that we can put an agent in our system, a real estate agent or a contractor or a buyer or seller. We can put them into the system and we can set them up for 180 days of seamless communication where, every day, every 3 days, or you can change the frequency and the emails are already written out for you. So it's keeping you as detached as possible with making it look like you're as involved in your business as humanly possible, which is super cool.
Sure. And that's really, I'm very interested in the buyer element, particularly right now, be it when, you can have all the leads you want, but if you can't find a buyer, you're not making any money. So I do feel like focusing on buyers is a really important thing. But if we go back to the seller, so the acquisition sort of stage and lead management sort of stage, one thing that a lot of investors are going to maybe start out by themselves and they're going to bring a VA in. And they're going to want to have someone to assist them either with doing some calling or transaction coordination, whatever that is. So in terms of being able to expand my team inside of Realeflow, is it easy for me to expand team? Is it easy for me to control access? How does that work? Because a lot of people get nervous if they're bringing, say, a VA in. I don't want this person to be able to export all of my leads and 5 minutes later say sayonara. Can you speak a bit to sort of that concern?
Yeah, so you can create multiple users in your account and you can set them up for either like a primary or a secondary access. So if you're somebody is set up as secondary, they don't have the ability to delete anything and certain things like that. And you can make different restrictions on what they have access to. So, and then everything that they do is all time-stamped and it's not able to be erased at all, ever. So any notes they take, it's boom.
You can't hide.
Yeah. And anything that's added in is listed as who created it based on the login. So everything is tracked. And you can, like I said, you can tag each other. You can set it up to where if I want you to see something, if I select your name, it's going to send you an email and alert you as soon as you log into the system. Then we have cool things like it's called our Scrum board. So it's kind of like our virtual bulletin board where we can basically put in and say, here's all our different properties we're working on. This one needs called. Here's the status for this one, or we can move them all around and really track ourselves. So to be as efficient as possible.
That's fantastic. Now, continuing on the acquisition side of things, one of the things I get asked about all the time is, right, obviously I can, inside of your platform, I can go ahead and maybe pull some lists that make a lot of sense, and maybe I get a probate list in my area, whatever. But another thing that people are doing, of course, they're advertising. They're doing, as you said in the masterclass, on Facebook advertising, or they're doing whatever. Now, leads that come through a Facebook campaign or Google advertisement or anything like that, how are those, are those leads able to come in easily? Is there a lot of effort involved? How do I get inbound leads inside the system? I understand the data bit, but what about those inbound leads?
Yeah. So when you create your website, you're going to have different opt-in forms. Then we also have separate opt-in forms that people can go in and they can just put in their information and it sends right to your system as well as sends you an email. about it. So there's different ways that they can do that. Also, we have something that's called Mobi marketing. And this is something that's not any additional fees that's included into the membership of the actual account, but it is super, super cool. So if you've ever driven past a property and let's say there's like a phone number and it will say, for more information, text house to the phone number, 555-1212. So what happens is you're going to be able to, as soon as they get, they send that text, there's going to be ways that you can do like different voice recordings, or you can create different additional steps that happen to that person after they opt in. So when they opt in, like I use it for my own personal, like my rental business, because if you've ever had rentals, like, you put something online and you get 5,000 people messaging you, hey, give me more details. What is included? Can I have a pet? Like all this stuff. Can I go see it? So what I do is I just like try to weed out as many people as possible. So what I do is I'll say, if you're interested in this property, text the word race, because like one of my properties is on Race Street. I'll say text the word race to whatever my phone number is, and you get your own exclusive phone number in the system. You pick your own number. And then after that, it will send them a message. It will give them a link to the property where they can see the pictures. They can read all the facts about it. Then I'll say, if you're interested in seeing this property, text the word view. So then they can text the word view, and then maybe it's going to give them like the application, or you can make it unlimited steps as possible. But the cool ninja part about it is, as soon as that person texts the first time, guess who's in my database now? And now I can do things like text blasting. So if I have another rental property that's available, I can take that list of 50 people that were interested in that property when my next one's available. Now I can text blast all of them, and I have all their contact information. Of course, yeah, they can opt out if they're annoyed by me, but the goal is to be able to, reach out to them. So they can contact you via texting. They can get to you by your opt-in pages. You can create squeeze pages, your websites, on Facebook, they can contact you, and we can put them into our database. So when we do a direct mail campaign, we can save all of those leads into our system. So when they reach out, we already have them in our system. So we don't have to, add them in and all those different things. So there's a lot of ways that we can be as connected as possible.
Well, I really like that idea of, not putting hurdles in, but I mean, ultimately, particularly the property management side of things, if you are holding properties and renting them out, if you get 500 people interested in the property, you want to be able to let the systems drive as much weeding out as possible, so that you're not wasting resource on, speaking to 500 people, of which 452 of them aren't even going to be anywhere near interested, or they've just clicked a button saying, yeah, I'm interested. Or they've texted you saying, yeah, I'm interested.
And my response to them would all be the same automated message that they're going to be getting anyways. So if I can take myself out of that mix and basically make myself robotic and put that step in there, then it's going to answer that question. And I can do that to 15 people at one time. I don't have to be sitting there texting or responding on Facebook Messenger and all those different things. I can let the system, and honestly, like, it's a good way to weed out, because if they can't follow a simple instruction, then maybe that's an indication right there of what kind of tenant you're going to be getting anyways.
Absolutely. So. Now, let me drive in one other bit that I get asked about all the time when it comes to, talking about different business systems and CRMs. And that is, particularly when people are potentially getting, wondering about where they're going to invest in and making sure that they make the most of their money. Things like tracking down performance on lead sources or types of leads they're getting, advertising spend they're making, that becomes a really important thing for a lot of people. Now, what sort of, metric tracking do you guys have in-house inside the system, either for leads or for agent performance? Because both of those are cost centers that you're spending money on, you're investing in. What kind of tracking do you guys have, and what do you have you seen as an investor yourself?
Yeah. So one of the things that they can do whenever they send out their direct mail letters, you can use like your own phone number if you have your own phone number, but for a small fee, I think it's like $19.99 a year, you can get a phone number, and every phone call that comes in is tracked with that specific campaign. So we can really, accurately track all the calls that are coming in associated with that campaign. So that's one way to do it. Another thing that we do is we we are constantly evaluating our own data. And so something that I didn't talk about, in addition to our leads that we have, so when we're doing, filtering out our leads, we have AI. So we have our artificial intelligence that is built into our system. And this is something, again, another one of our sexy tools that we have. So what we've done as a company is we purchased over 40 years of all the real estate data, all the real estate sales in the entire country. And what we've done is we've looked at that super invasive, like that creepy data, like the stuff, you say something and then it shows up on Facebook kind of stuff, like all of that data, like how much money are people making? Who lives in their house? What cars do they drive? Do they have a screened-in porch? How old is it? What magazine subscriptions? Like everything, it's like over 40 billion data points. So I don't even know how these computers do it, but they do it. And so what we've done is we've taken all that data and we've seen all the house sales. And when we look at that, and then we look in reverse and we see what happened that led up to that house sale. So maybe they lost their job, maybe whatever these circumstances were. And we take that and we apply that into today's world. So if we see somebody is showing these same symptoms as somebody else in the past, then we're able to accurately predict the likelihood that this person is going to sell their property in the next 90 days. And this is another filter that we can search by. And what we've seen in across the country is if we have a typical list, if we have a typical list of houses in just any typical list, we see about 1% of these houses are going to sell in the next 90 days, just based on a national average. When we take ours, we've tested and tracked it, and we have all these stats so we can provide all that. We're at a 17x lift. So we're 17 times more likely to see these sales in the next 90 days. So that's going to be, drastically reduce the cost of the marketing expenses while drastically increasing our reach and our open rate and our success stats. So we track all of it as a company. But I mean, just me personally, when the artificial intelligence first came out, I was like, all right, like, let's see how good this really is. Like, I'm probably like one of the biggest critics of anything just in general in life, but I want to be, if I'm like a cheerleader, I want to make sure I'm cheering for the right team. So I tried it. So I sent out, it was a really small campaign in my area. I sent out, it was like 59 different letters. I did like a 2-touch. So like I did postcards. So I did a 2-touch campaign. I targeted absentee owners of vacant properties, and I filtered it by the artificial intelligence score. So I think I did and it's scored on a scale of 1 to 1,000, 1,000 being the best. So I maybe did 500 and above. So I only wanted, a list of 500 scores and above. And so what I did is I sent it out, and I had 13 phone calls back out of the 59 that I sent out, 13 calls back. Out of that, 7 were pretty decent. One of them, I'm an agent. So one of them I got as a listing. Another one I bought it. And the responses from people, it was ridiculously amazing. I wish I would have recorded it, because people were like, oh, we were just out to dinner having pizza. And then we were saying, what should we do with this property? And then your postcard arrived. It was so amazing. I couldn't fake it. So, I bought one of them subject to. So, I just literally came in, took the place of them. So I'm paying their mortgage every single month, and it's $300. It rents out at $700 a month. So I'm making between $300 and $400 a month every single month for the last however many years that this came out, for everything was an $87 direct mail campaign that I did just to see if it worked. That's just one example. So, to be able to track it, the best thing is testing and tracking, sending it out. Does it work? Does it not? Do you get the phone calls? Do you not? And so, we have the stats on our end, but they're able to track it with their phone numbers by seeing the results of their campaigns.
Fantastic. Well, Jenna, it's been, I've learned a lot, and I'm fascinated in some of the areas that you've spoken of today. Hopefully I can get you guys on the podcast again as we dive more deeply into some of these areas. But I want to close up the podcast with the Real Estate Tech Guy Fast 5. These are 5 questions I ask every technology partner. Quick questions, quick answers. You ready? I'm going to hit you with the first one. That Sure. is, what feature of Realeflow has the biggest impact, do you think, on your customer's business?
I definitely think the artificial intelligence component that I just explained.
Awesome. Number 2, what's the biggest mistake people make within the sort of CRM ecosystem?
Well, kind of 2. So one of them is thinking oh, it's too late for me to get started, and also not using it. It's like a gym. You sign up for it, you don't go. Whose fault is it?
Preach. I preach that every day. So I appreciate that. Question number 3, what's your best advice on what a new investor should look at integrating a CRM?
Things that are going to make it easy for them and seamless, and things that aren't going to be intimidating. So things that are going to walk them through, handhold them, and just really grow as they grow.
Fantastic. Question number 4. What's the one thing you wish everyone knew about Realeflow?
That it's super easy. Like I grew up super sheltered in my personal, growing up, I didn't have computers until I was in college. I mean, I went to like private schools and things like that. And if I can do this, and if I can be working with this software, like, believe me, anybody at any age, like I'm the equivalent of somebody who's like great grandma age as far as my original knowledge of software and computers. And if I can do this, and I mean, literally anybody can, and it's going to change the entire game of their business.
Fantastic. And final question. If you got a new investor, someone's just starting out in real estate investing, what are 3 technology products that you would recommend they bring on first?
You mean like 3 separate, or?
Yeah, just like a brand new investor, I'm going to start working out what would be your first 3 bits of technology you'd bring in.
I would say getting an established website, just because people, first thing they're going to do when you start reaching out to people, they want to see who you are and research you. Even if it's something very simple we create here with our own WordPress website, where even if it's just put your name on the page and a logo and you keep all the other John Doe stuff on it, do it, because at least it gets you out there. Having our CRM to be able to get you as automated as possible, as detached as possible, because it's the only way we're going to be able to duplicate ourselves, because we only have so many hours in a week. And things like our system, when it comes to, I would say like the third thing would be anything that's going to help with fulfillment. So things that are going to be able to help with really following up with people and really reaching out to them after you've had those communications. So if I talk to an agent, I'm going to be able to have that communication for the next 6 months with them, even if I'm not personally doing it. So ways that they can continue to reach out to people even after they've stopped talking to them.
Fantastic. Well, Jenna, thank you so much. Before we finish off, can you just let everybody know how they can get started, how they can find you guys, so that when they hear this, they can go click and check it out?
Yeah. So if anybody is interested in our products, so you can just head over to our website, realeflow.com. Don't forget the E in the middle. So it's realeflow.com.
I'll put it on the podcast page. Don't worry.
Yeah, most people forget the E. So REALEFLOW.com. And I'm at Jenna Buys Houses on all different social media platforms. So Jenna Buys, plural, houses, plural. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those different sites. So if you need me, have questions for me, want to follow me, definitely check me out there. And any questions, that's where we'll be at.
Right. Thank you so much, Jenna. Everybody listening to this, please do check out Realeflow and Jenna. I'll put all the podcasts, all the links, on the podcast webpage. And of course, if you're listening to this, go over, subscribe, give a like, and do a review. It really helps spread the range of the podcast to other real estate investors. Jenna, thank you for coming on, and everybody have a great week.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to another amazing episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. Head over to thatrealestatetechguy.com to check out all episodes and get special discounts on tons of awesome real estate technology platforms.